Hi, in this video I'm doing a part 2 question that comes up time and time again. It's describe a book you recently read. And there are a few surprises inside, so stick around. I'd like to tell you about a book called Slice of the Moon. It's by Sonia Toksvig, at least I think that's the author's name. So my sister gave this book to my daughter, and then I borrowed it from my daughter, partly because my sister had read it and she had said she couldn't put it down. Hey guys, stay tuned. I'll be doing a full analysis of this part 2 shortly. Sorry. Well, it's set in rural Ireland in the 19th century, and it's the story of how a family fled the country to escape the famine. It then narrates their journey across the sea to America. It's told from the point of view of the young girl in the family, and it's a really captivating book, but quite horrific. I mean, it sent shivers down my spine. Many of the characters die on the trip, so it was very tragic. One sad event after another. Oh, by the way, don't worry if the examiner doesn't like your story or your ideas. They don't care about your ideas. They just focus on your English, which is good news. Back to the part 2. Sorry, they keep... Anyway, I like the way the author developed the plot and built these characters that you really feel for, especially the young girl, right, who is adorable. I think I really enjoyed it because it's a doddle to read. You know, it's aimed at young children or teenagers, but it's really engaging. I mean, the cliffhangers had me on the edge of my seat all the way through. Hey, on the edge of my seat, great idiom, hey, stay tuned for more. So overall, I would definitely recommend it. I think it's a really good read, both for children and adults, to be honest. I think there's something for everybody there. So in fact, I'd go as far to say it's possibly the best adventure book for children that I've ever read. Stay tuned. Analysis coming up now. So, welcome to my office. Well, I should say, welcome to my jungle. I'm getting more and more plants. It's great. Now, we're going to move on and look at this part 2 answer and analyze a bit. So let me begin. I'd like to tell you about a book called Is a Strong Direct Introduction, which is really to the point and really important. Also, don't worry if you don't know the name of the book in English or the name of the author. You can say it in your own language or translate it, and it doesn't matter if it's not quite right. In fact, that's a great opportunity to say the author's name is blah 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 or something like that. I'm not quite sure. It's all great English, so don't worry about getting it right, the name. So my sister gave this book to me. So here I'm going to highlight the grammatical tenses because there are some nice different past tenses here. We have the simple past. She gave the book and I borrowed it from my daughter. And then my sister read it in the past. So I say she had read it. It's the past perfect. So it's nice to change your tenses and use different tenses because grammatical range is an important part of the evaluation. And then she couldn't put it down, which means it was captivating or engaging. You literally got the book and you can't put it down. Simple but nice expression. Then, in order to introduce the story, one way to say simply is, it's the story of, or it's the story about, or it's the story of how, blah, 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 blah. And then I say it narrates their journey, it narrates their adventure, it narrates what happened. Narrate is a really nice word, meaning to tell a story, but it's different, it's a bit unusual, so it's nice to use. And here, well, talking about writing style. So it's told from the point of view of the young girl, or it's narrated from the point of view of blah, 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 or it's written from the point of view of blah, blah, blah. So it's a nice way to explain the point of view, if you like. Describing the book. It's here, I say that it's a captivating book, which means it captures your attention. So it's engaging, it draws you in, which is a nice way to say it as well. And then later, I describe a series of events. It's one sad event after another. This is quite a common expression in English. It's one thing after another. Wasn't it Churchill who said it's one damn thing after another? Something like that. But it's one thing after another, it's one good thing after another, or it's one sad event after another. So it's quite a colloquial way of expressing the series of events. It was a bit of a sad story. Now, you may notice when I'm speaking, I tend to use chunks a lot. So instead of speaking word by word, there are very common chunks in English that we use all the time. Indeed, we could say most of our language is chunks. And I think chunks are a really good way to think about English and to use English. A chunk is a piece, right? A chunk of bread, a piece of bread. 2 or 3 words together that make one sound. So, I like the way, or I liked the way, I like the way, I like the way. It's almost one sound. I like the way, I like the way, I like the way. I like the way you do that. I like the way you watch. I like the way you talk. I like the way you speak. And this chunk, it helps your fluency if you can use chunks a lot more. I'll do a whole other video on chunks and the more common ones that you can be using. But here, as you listen to this, you can see the chunks. I like the way the author developed the plot. So it's with a subject and with a verb. I like the way that Keith speaks English, of course. So then moving on, I talk about it being a doddle to read. A doddle just means it's easy, it's a piece of cake, it's dead easy to read, again, quite colloquial. So a doddle, I think, is more British English, but if something is a doddle, it's easy to do. It's a doddle to read. It's a doddle to watch this video. Then moving on, I talk about the target reader. So when you're describing a book or a film, it's always good to talk about the target reader or the target audience. So it's targeted at or it's aimed at. It's aimed at. Go back to chunks, okay? Listen carefully. It's aimed at. It's aimed at. It's aimed at. It's aimed at. It's aimed at young children. It's aimed at teenagers. It's aimed at adults. I know it's aimed at young children or teenagers, but it's really engaging. And then we have the idea of describing suspense, because many books Well, drama books have suspense. A cliffhanger is the typical moment of suspense. It's like at the end of the episode when you don't know what's going to happen next and you want to know. So you press play to watch the next episode at 2 o'clock in the morning. And the cliffhanger then is when you finish on a moment of suspense. And the cliffhangers had me on the edge of my seat, literally on the edge of my seat, is really wanting to know what comes next. Great language. And then I'm describing the book. Well, it's a good read. Now that sounds simple, but it's actually quite clever English, because read is a verb, but we're making it a noun, a read. It's an interesting read. It's a good read. Not many people will use that, but it's great. There's something for everyone. There's something for everybody. If a book has a wide appeal, so it attracts a wide range of people, then there is something for everybody. Again, that's quite nice, colloquial English. And here at the end, this is quite clever. In fact, I'd go as far as to say, so I'm developing my idea, but I'm also leading in to a superlative, which is actually just showing off a wide range of grammar. The best book I've ever read. I'd go as far as to say it's the best book I've ever read. You could add possibility. It's possibly the best adventure book for children that I have ever read. So you can see how you're building up the sentence. It's the best book. It's possibly the best book. It's possibly the best adventure book for children that I have ever read. Beautiful language that you can build up step by step. And that brings us to the end. Or does it? So here's another surprise, apart from the jungle and the monkey that will come through soon. A part 3 question for you. So when we finish part 2 about books, the common questions that come up are, why is reading important? Has the way people read changed in recent years? They often talk about importance, change in the past, and change in the future. How will reading change in the future? So, as a little bonus, I'm going to give you why is reading important? Another possible answer, a kind of model answer, but it just gives you some ideas to talk about and language as well. Why is reading important? Let me read it for you as naturally as possible. Well, I'd say reading is probably the foundation of everything we do. Everything we learn tends to come from reading, whether it's from a website or in a book. So it's hugely important. Without reading, we wouldn't be able to make the progress we've made as a society. I mean, we make scientific progress by sharing and reading research in scientific journals, right? On top of that, I reckon reading is an important pastime for many. It brings great pleasure and enjoyment. It helps us escape and it helps us to be creative. I think everyone needs to read. Now, what I've done here is kind of follow the part 3 style of answer I like to give, which is give an opinion, kind of explain that, give an example, and maybe give a consequence. So to give an opinion, I'd say, or I think, or on top of that as well, also, on top of that, I reckon, I think. So we're using a variety of ways to express opinion. And the example here, I mean, or for example, for instance, I mean we make scientific progress by sharing and reading research in journals. So I'm giving an example there of how we make progress. And consequences, which is quite nice. Well, we do this, and if we didn't, what would happen? So reading is hugely important. Without reading, if we didn't read, without reading, we wouldn't be able to make the progress we have made. And then my example about the journals. So it's a very simple answer, really, but having the opinion, the examples, maybe a consequence with some nice mixed language, then you can give a really nice answer. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of reading a book that you recently read, and also the end of this video. And this time it really is the end. If you liked the video, please subscribe, turn on the notifications, and why not pop over and visit my website IELTSSpeakingSuccess.com and join the newsletter to get more tips and resources. Thanks, and see you soon.